heat pump was a no-brainer. My boiler was on the blink, and here I was being offered £7,500 to have a new heat pump installed. It only cost me £3,385 from Octopus. And what I got a heat pump, 10 new radiators, a new pressurised water tank, and absolutely fantastic. But there's things you must know before you go on this journey for a heat pump. Of course, you can get a grant of £7,500, which obviously went towards the cost of my heat pump. I would suggest that you go with big companies like British Gas or Octopus. I went with Octopus and they were very good. But before they actually came, there's one or two things we ought to know about. First thing I think is to make the property as energy efficient as you can. If you've got old double glazing, then if it's time to replace it, then get it replaced. Go along and check your loft insulation. You need about 300 millimetres of rock wool or some other insulation in the loft, because that is a big saver for you. You must also hold an EPC, which is Energy Performance Certificate, before you can get the grant. So I had to go away and get a chappie to come along and perform an EPC survey, and that cost me £80. The other thing you've got to know, of course, is asbestos. You don't realise that, but some of the buildings of about, early on, 1957 or thereabouts, a lot of the ceilings had Artex, and that contained asbestos. Not in all cases, but some. So again, you need to check out the asbestos in the ceiling where the pipes are going to go through. The testing station to see whether there's asbestos in the ceiling. So you have to be a little bit careful. Just take the little drips, if you like, that are formed in the Artex ceiling and send that off. And also, there's asbestos in the eaves. If you're going to have the pipe going up, like I did, through the eaves, then you have to have the fascia boards at the top checked to make sure there's no asbestos. This was carried out for me by Octopus, but the ones in the airing cupboard where Artex was, I had to go and have that checked myself, and that cost me not very much actually. It was only £15, but it came back okay, so that was good news for me. Another thing you don't realise about that Octopus Energy, they don't do any excavations, so you have to decide on where you're going to have the heat pump and then beaver away at getting the excavation. In my case, it was under a footpath, but it worked out okay. The other thing to remember is that to get the 7,500 grant, which is called a bus grant, which is a boiler upgrade scheme, all heating devices that you've got will have to be removed, such as the boiler, that will need to be removed, and the gas fires you might have, they become obsolete. However, you are allowed to keep your range cooker or Arga boiler or whatever you've got. You can still keep that if it uses gas. Of course, they will remove the gas meter, so that goes as well. So that's another thing. Other things you've got to think about, if you've got a pumped shower, that becomes obsolete because the pressure in the system, the new system, in the pressurised water tank, you don't need pumps. So your shower, if it's a pumped shower, needs to be converted to a pressurised one without pumps. Another area you have to think about is if you've got any designer radiators, of course, and the output has to be put up in that particular room, it will mean that you're going to lose your designer radiators. So that's another point to consider. Another area you might not realise, but a lot of the companies don't like micro bore. So if you've got very small water pipes feeding your radiators, then again that's a problem. You'd have to have a word with British Gas or Octopus on that point. Another thing you need, of course, before you can go for a heat pump is that your water pressure has to have a good pressure. That's the word I'm looking for as well. You've got to have a space for a large water tank. So I was going to have mine up in the loft, but Octopus insisted that we have a structural survey, in which case I had one, and unfortunately where they were going to put the water tank, it wasn't a load-bearing wall, so I had to find another place to put the water tank, which was in the airing cupboard, which in a way I'm quite pleased, because I have to go to look at it, change some settings, so it would be much better it's in an area where I can get to without having to climb up into the loft and so on. One thing, the installation is quite long. It takes about 5 days, but prior to that, Octopus Energy come along and do a survey of the whole house to check the heat loss from the house, and this takes about half a day or so, and they will come up and suggest where to put the heat pump. I'd already tried to decide where to going to put mine, because it's in an area where the sun comes up and it would not get too cold. If you want to look at all the people that provided services for me, it's at the end of this video. Well, thank you very much, and good luck with your journey for a heat pump, but it is well worth it. You can't really complain about it. It's lovely and warm in this house. It's about 22, 21 degrees, and it's certainly lovely, and it's quite cheap as well, because I go for Octopus Cozy, which gives you 3 dips and gives you 3 chances throughout the day to charge up your battery if you've got one, or to heat the house. Anyway, good luck and cheers for now.